Hello everyone. And welcome. Today we have something special. The first one-shot movie. Today we have What If Deku Was in Undertale. If you enjoy, please like and subscribe. I did not write this story. The original writer is May 3. Please support them by visiting the link in the description. Now let's dive in. Maybe if you jump off the roof, you'll get a quirk in your next life. The words repeated in Izuku's head, swirling up a storm. Maybe Kaken's right? He mumbled, trudging home. He wished he stayed at school. He wished he stayed at school and went to the roof, and jumped. He arrived home, but his mother wasn't home. She had left a note saying she had gone shopping for groceries in order to get ingredients to prepare katsudon, Izuku's favorite meal. How unfortunate that her son would never eat this katsudon. As Izuku changed, a thought occurred to him. He didn't need a roof to jump, a high place would do. He prepared a note himself, with only 3 words, "Goodbye. Sorry, mother." It was a nearby mountain, with many rumors surrounding it, how people who fell in it disappeared, how some people say they feel an aura, like magic, emerging from it. It was his best option, it was nearby, isolated, and tall. Izuku was not crying. He almost felt elated, knowing he would suffer no longer. As he arrived at the foot of the mountain, he saw warning signs, telling explorers to turn back, for the mysteries relating to this mountain were unsolved. He ignored them. He climbed, and came across a deep hole, almost falling in. He could not see the bottom. This is it. He slowly felt his repressed emotions rising up. Tears began to stream down his face, as he looked over the abyss. He didn't want to burden his mother with his death, but he also didn't want to burden her with his life. He thought about the last time he hugged her, talked to her, which was this morning. He longed to hug his mother one more time, but there was no turning back now. He took a breath, and leaned forward. He felt the wind pick up, as he fell, hurtling towards the ground. Suddenly, regrets filled him, as his life flashed before his eyes. He saw a golden flash. This must be heaven. The ground was soft. Izuku sat up, dazed. He had no serious injuries, in fact, he was fairly unscathed. He realized he was sitting in a yellow flower bed. He stood up, taking a look at his surroundings. Everything was dark, apart from the flowers, which seemed to have a light, almost like a spotlight, shining on them. Looking up, he realized it was coming from the hole he fell through. A surge of joy, mixed with misery, surfaced his emotions. He survived? But how? He began to mumble to himself, searching for a way out. Going back up was out of the question. Scanning the dimly lit room, his eyes landed on a faint exit. He walked through and saw a flower. A talking flower. The small boy jumped back in surprise. "Howdy. I'm Flowey. Flowey the Flowy. You're new to the underground, aren't cha?" The way the creature talked was as if to a little lost child, belittling them. "Someone ought to teach you how things work around here. I guess little old me will have to do." The flower seemed friendly enough, but there was something that seemed off about it. "See this? These are friendliness pellets. They give you power in order to help you get stronger. How about I give you some?" The flower sent some friendliness pellets at Izuku. Izuku, slightly suspicious, stepped aside, avoiding the little white things. "Are you brain dead? Run. Into the buell, friendliness pellets." Again, it sent some small seed-like objects at Izuku. Izuku was further disdained by the little flowers slip up, however his curiosity and current suicidal state made him stand immobile. The pellets hit him and suddenly Izuku collapsed onto the ground. The impact of the pellets spread like poison inside of him, like an internal fire, setting flame to everything. He felt his life force draining from his body. He felt as if the slightest provocation could result in his death. You idiot. In this world, it's kill or be killed. Why would anyone pass up an opportunity like this? The flower began to maniacally laugh, surrounding the small boy with the friendliness pellets. Darkness began to overtake his eyes. Izuku had already accepted his death. He had planned to die when he first came here. Awaiting his inevitable, yet delayed fate, he lay there. But it never came. He heard a yelp and looked up. What a terrible creature, torturing such a poor innocent youth. What? Why? Again. Twice he had been saved from near-death experiences. Did the world want to keep him alive to torture him? "My name is Toriel. Come with me, child, I shall guide you through the catacombs." The large creature, resembling a goat, named Toriel, held out her hand. Her voice had a sweet, endearing tone to it. More trustworthy than that flower. Flustered, Izuku however did not take her hand. He wished he was dead. He wished he would wake up from this hellish nightmare. The goat lady took his hand and pulled him up. Somehow, Izuku felt refreshed, restored of life. He noticed there were sparks flying off Toriel's hands. Magic? Without his consent, she led the small child on the ruins, teaching him about the puzzles in the underground. Izuku opened his eyes. He was glad to be up from that strange, nightmarish dream. He heard his mother's voice calling him. "Oh child." That was strange, his mother never called him child. He looked at the ceiling. It was unfamiliar. He looked around the room, beginning to panic. It wasn't just a dream. It was reality. A cruel reality. A delicious smell drifted to his nose. He looked to his right and noticed a pie. Flashback. After guiding him to a room, she left. Gave him a phone, and left. Of course, Izuku followed behind, as she was the only creature that had been nice to him down in the underground so far, although he had only met 3 monsters. However, she had disappeared, and Izuku was in a foreign place. He didn't falter, however, and kept his stride. Suddenly, a white, frog-like creature popped up. Similar to the one he saw earlier, however then he had Toriel by his side. The frog-like creature sent flies. Judging by his experience so far, Izuku wisely dodged them. He punched back. As his friend Kaken and outshined him in everything, most people turned a blind eye to quirkless Izuku. What they didn't know was that he, determined to become a hero, had taken martial art lessons. He was fairly physically adept, he thought. What he didn't expect, however, was for the frog to disintegrate into dust. He sat, looking at the floor, now littered with the dust of the frog he had just punched. It began to set in. In this world, it's kill or be killed. He had killed something. Strange frog-like creature as it was still a living, breathing thing, that was simply fighting for its life. He felt himself get physically stronger, almost like a stat, specifically LV increasing in an RPG from EXP. He tried to put his recent murder to the back of his mind, playing it off as self-defense, however the guilt lingered. But he still continued on his journey, trudging through the ruins, with a distant look in his eyes. He began to mumble again. That creature, monster I think, turned into dust when I struck it. Is it dead? Most likely it is, but that easily? Did I honestly have to kill it? And what was the feeling I felt straight after? Like a stat increasing in an RPG. Does that mean the more I kill, the stronger I'll be? Does that mean, the stronger I be the higher my likelihood of escaping this place, and possibly, becoming a hero? Should I search for these monsters then? No, that would be wrong, but perhaps when I know I can't become a hero like this, a hero would never kill something, human or not. In his distracted state, he didn't notice he had walked straight into another monster, again resembling a frog. He took a fighting stance, however the creature only talked to him. Use mercy, human, when you can. Mercy. As he continued through the ruins, simply fleeing from any monster he encountered, he noticed there were many puzzles, some easy, some fairly difficult, but most doable. He received a phone call. Do you prefer butterscotch or cinnamon? He still felt guilty, remembering he caused a monster's death. However, he pushed the thoughts away, fairly easily as the monster held no resemblance to a human being, and picked up the pie. Strangely, he realized eating food would make him feel better, as he had discovered when eating the monster candy. Carrying the pie, he walked to the living room. Miss Toriel? Just call me Toriel, please. Toriel, well, it seems that monsters possess some sort of magic ability. Do you think it would be possible for me to learn it? Toriel sighed, relieved, as she thought Izuku wanted to ask about something else. Well, I'm not sure. I think I might have heard about some humans knowing how to use magic a long time ago. Do you think you could maybe teach me? Teach you? Well, my magic ability is nowhere near as powerful as some other monsters, she muttered, slightly flustered, realizing this would be no easy feat. However, I will try my very best. The goat-like monster jumped at the opportunity to keep the small human child safe in the ruins, and to make him stronger. Maybe later she could even let him go, knowing his power will be enough to let him escape to the surface. Really? Thank you. I realized that you never told me your name. Midoriya Izuku. That's my name. I do not know how I could awaken your power, Izuku, however perhaps exposing you large amounts of it could work? Forgive me for this. Go ahead. Izuku engaged himself into a defensive position, prepared to embrace the attack. A blast of fire hit him at full force, as he felt his skin burning, pulling back. After a minute or so, Toriel used her ability to heal Izuku, and tried again. Further repeats ensued, however no progress seemed to made. It doesn't seem as this is working. I'm sorry. Perhaps we shall try another method. No, it's fine, maybe I could rest a bit and then we can try again? How about I show you my fire magic and you attempt to replicate it? Ok. The subsequent days followed with the same routine: train, eat, train, rest. It didn't seem to be working, and Toriel was growing tired of the method. However, Izuku insisted that it would work. After about 2 days, something changed. Remember what she said, how to create the fire. As usual, Toriel sent a full-force fire attack at Izuku, but fire was pushed back with more fire. It was weak, so it only lasted for a second. However, it was clear Izuku could use fire magic. At this moment, it felt like he realized the possibility of truly becoming a hero. Like light at the end of a tunnel, his previously diminished, broken dream shone brightly. Now he only needed to cultivate his power. Time skip, about 1 month. He was prepared. After sparring with Toriel many times, he could finally complete evade and negate all of her attack, and lay good hits on her. It was time. Toriel? Yes, Izuku? Her benevolent, sweet tone made Izuku feel guilty of what he was about to ask. So, since we've trained, and I'm stronger now, I was wondering if. He trailed off, his guilt eating up his desire to leave the underground. What is it? I was wondering if I could exit the ruins and return to the surface now. Toriel's face fell. She had no further reason to keep him here, and although she hoped he could stay, she had to put aside her loneliness, her fears, so that Izuku could reach the surface. How about I bake you another pie? Or maybe let's read this book of snails. She hesitated, noticing the determination in his eyes. Well, follow me, I suppose. The older monster lady gently gripped the young human's hand and led him downstairs. I knew you would be unhappy trapped down here. When you leave, please do not come back. Once you've left, the directions are quite straightforward, literally. Beware of 2 specific monsters, Undine, the head of the royal guard, and Askari, the king. They are both strong enemies who will not accept mercy. Thank you. I hope you can escape. Farewell, Izuku. She pulled Izuku into an embrace, silent tears streaming down both their faces. Goodbye, Toriel. The green-haired boy stepped through the door, and continued on his path, now with the ability to manipulate fire magic. To his dismay, Izuku glimpsed sight of a yellow flower at the end of the tunnel. Clever. Very clever. You spared the life of a monster. Frogget. What about that guy? Don't you realize they have a family as well? They could have been someone else's, Toriel. You probably only spared her simply because she trained you, huh? Selfish brat. The flowy sunk back into the floor, leaving guilt-ridden Izuku lying on the floor to contemplate his actions. It was an accident. His attempts to convince himself he didn't bear any blame for it, as he was using self-defense, weren't working. However, he didn't want to let Toriel down, so Izuku pulled himself up, and progressed through the underground. After leaving the ruins, Izuku became cold, due to the snow surrounding him. He wondered how such drastic changes in temperature could occur, wandering through the snow. Using his new ability, he nullified the cold with fire. He walked past a stick, quite a strong stick, could be suitable for battle, however it was too large and heavy to be of much use. Izuku stepped over it. As he continued, he heard a loud thud. He turned around to see the stick shattered to pieces, as if it was nothing. His hair stood on its end. Chills covered his body as he got the feeling he was being followed. He suspected the flower, however doubted such a seemingly small fragile creature could destroy such a stick. He heard footsteps behind him, and quickly span around to catch a black silhouette in his periphery. Clenching his fists, he kept forth, arriving at a bridge. Footsteps behind him got louder. And closer. And stopped just behind him. Too terrified to move, the small boy stood still as a statue. Human. Don't you know how to greet a new pal? Turn around and shake my hand. Izuku wanted to scream, he wanted to run, everything seemed to yell, trap. About this, but his quiet nature wouldn't allow him to. Slowly, he turned around. A skeleton stood there, holding his hand out. Attempting to keep a cool demeanor, Izuku took his hand. He. The old whoopee cushion in the hand trick. Gets me every time. Huh? Harmless? Anyway, you're a human, right? I'm supposed to be on patrol for humans, but I can't be bothered. My brother, on the other hand, is a human hunting fanatic. Someone to avoid. Go on, step right through. My brother made the bars too wide to stop anyone from coming through. Izuku spotted a strangely shaped lamp, similar to himself, as the skeleton pointed out his brother was coming. Quick, behind that conveniently shaped lamp. The lamp seemed to be a perfect imitation of Izuku, the shade looked like a recolor of his hair, and the body matched his own. Scene skip, Sans tells his jokes, Papyrus goes on about joining the royal guard like in the game. Glad that the ordeal was over, Izuku stepped out from his convenient hiding spot and began to leave. Hey, could you do me a favor? You see, my brother is really sad and seeing a human would cheer him up. Don't worry, he's harmless. Without waiting for a response, Sans thanked him and went in the opposite direction. Izuku didn't want to deal with a human hunting fanatic, however. During his encounter, he seemed completely harmless. After dealing with many puzzles the harmless skeleton named Papyrus put forward, it was time to engage him in combat. This was his first time since sparring with Toriel, as he had fled from the other monsters, afraid they were too frail, and unsure how to deal with them. He was strong, yet so peaceful, it was hard to believe he wanted to be a member of the monster royal guard. This weakness, his inability to harm someone, was his downfall, and thus Izuku easily dodged all of Papyrus's attacks, and overpowered him. However, they were resistant to kill each other, so Izuku and Papyrus came to a mutual agreement, and thus spared each other. Although Izuku had obtained the ability to use fire magic, he still aimed higher, yearning for more power. Due to this desire, Izuku returned to the skeleton brothers' house, with a request for them to teach him how to utilize their magic ability. It would be easy to persuade Papyrus, the younger, to help as he was kind-hearted. Of course he jumped at the opportunity to help. Of course, human. So you were captivated by the great Papyrus's strong power. Let's begin right away. Nihihi. Ignoring his arrogant nature and his use of the word human, Izuku suggested the training regimen he followed with Toriel, and so they did. A day passed. 3 days passed. Still nothing, even when Sans decided to help. Eventually a week had passed, yet Izuku showed no signs of being able to wield this power. After another week, the green-haired boy realized. With Toriel, although it took at least a month probably to cultivate my power, I showed signs of gaining the ability only after a few days. This either means I can only learn one type of magic ability, or it has something to do with what my quirk would have been if I had one. Pyrokinesis? If the latter is true, then looking at my parents' quirks, that would make sense, as my mother's quirk of weak telekinesis and my father's quirk of breathing fire could have merged and developed, giving me the ability to manipulate fire. So maybe I possessed the potential to have a quirk after all. However, why didn't it activate then and why would it activate now? Or maybe the former is true and dash. Human? Are you alright? His mutters were interrupted by a bewildered skeleton. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry about that. I don't think this is working, it's fine, I can already use fire. Thanks. No wait, don't say that. I'm sure that you can achieve control of my great power. No, it's fine. I figured something out. Thanks anyway, I'm in a hurry so I must leave. Bye. Well, okay. Are you sure you don't want to hang out some more with me? Be sure to befriend Undyne. Nihihi. I wasted 2 weeks, and I know over a month has passed since I fell down here. There were around 10 months left until the UA entrance exam then, so I have around 8 months and a half at best to escape, and to train my physique. And, my mother? I can't even begin to imagine her concern. I'm sorry, mother. My biggest concern right now, however, is Undyne. Although the skeleton suggested to befriend her, Toriel warned me of her, and she is the head of the royal guard, so I doubt she'll be as merciful as Papyrus. Mumbling to himself, Izuku exited the house and continued on his journey. Meanwhile, on the surface. Izuku, my Izuku, what happened? Where are you? Why did you leave me? What used to be a cheerful, slightly plump woman, had become a thin skeleton sick with worry. A sorry excuse for a mother lay sobbing on the floor, worried about her missing son. The only evidence to his whereabouts was the note he had left, with 3 simple words. Of course, adding on to his quirklessness and the treatment he received at school, Izuku Midoriya could only assume the worst. She reported it to the police, however over a month had passed, and so the police had all assumed he committed suicide, and given up mostly. Hope wasn't completely lost, as they hadn't found his body, yet that couldn't assure anyone. Katsuki, Kaken, Bakugo was also deeply affected by the missing of his childhood friend. Idiot Deku. Did you think I was being serious when I told you to kill yourself? Idiot. Stupid nerd. All you are is a useless Deku. He had changed. He was much more quiet in class, in fact he barely uttered a single word. He was bundling up his emotions, which he rarely ever did, as he didn't want to seem weak for crying at school. He heard of the three-worded note from his mother, and blamed himself. The guilt he felt weighed him down like chains. His grades dropped. It's my fault. Not only did I tell him to jump off the roof, but also all the bullying I subjected him to. It's all my fault. Worthless Deku. Why? The explosive teen had never realized how deeply Izuku was affected by his actions, and now the realization hit him like a brick all at once. It left an aching hole in his heart, filled with regret and guilt. Back to the underground. There was another drastic temperature change, from bitter cold to sticky humidity. As Izuku wandered through the bushes, he spotted two figures, Papyrus and an unfamiliar shape in armor. They both loomed over him, as he was below them, hiding in the bushes, the unknown figure with a threatening stance. Undina. I'm here with my daily report. Undyne? Papyrus spoke with hesitation, slight fear and disappointment in his tone. Regarding that human I called you about earlier, huh? Did I fight them? Yes. Of course I did. I fought them valiantly. Undyne was silent. What? Did I capture them? Well, no. I tried very hard, Undyne, but in the end, I failed. What? You're going to take the human soul yourself? But Undyne, you don't have to destroy them. You see? I understand. Undyne stood with her dominating presence, as Papyrus was walked away, defeated. Chills traveled up Izuku's spine. Despite his training with Toriel and Papyrus, although that was rendered useless, and his eagerness to test his abilities, he could tell Undyne was stronger than him by a long shot. What was she going to do? And what was he going to do? If he moved an inch, the bushes would rustle, and she would doubtlessly hear him and likely murder him on the spot. Inching forth, Izuku attempted to sneak out as quietly as possible, but to no avail. Her eyes glinted with bloodlust, as she aimed her spear directly at him. By some miracle, however, she retreated into the darkness. Slowly, Izuku creeped out of the bushes, and heard a voice, startled. Yo, did you see the way she was staring at you? That was awesome. What did you do to get her attention? The dinosaur-like monster kid, with no arms, stumbled away, tripping, for they had no arms. Was the reason not obvious? How did the monster child not know he was a human? A feeling of dread hung over him, however he stayed determined to reach his goal and escape. These monsters really seemed to love puzzles, he thought, easily solving a lily bridge puzzle. More and more enemies appeared, stronger ones too, however Izuku still fled from all of them. After crossing a large body of water on a raft, Undyne's first attack came. All he could do was dodge and run away, as she continuously threw spears at him. He hid in a bush, avoiding her attacks, and sat still in order to not make a sound. She firmly thumped towards him, creating a large commotion of rustling bushes. Next to Izuku was the monster kid, and Lady Luck seemed to be smiling on him, as Undyne grabbed the monster's kid instead of him when she approached. He'd escaped her by a hair. Undyne touched me. I'm never washing my face again. Man, are you unlucky. If you were standing just a little bit to the left. Don't worry. I'm sure we'll see her again. Monster Kid highlighted Izuku's blessing. I'm sure I'm about to run out of luck, for I have used it all up surely by now. Izuku felt queasy when they mentioned seeing her again. Although he knew he was simply delaying the inevitable, he wouldn't like to see her again soon. It was comforting to see Sans again, however Izuku kept on without saying a single word to him. He knew a fight against Undyne was going to come up soon, so as he stepped through the swamps, when he encountered a monster, he didn't run away. Evading the attacks of the literal seahorse, Izuku aimed a punch at the muscular monster. Fortunately, this monster was much stronger than that first frog monster, and thus didn't crumble to dust at once. Rolling to dodge the droplets of sweat, Izuku spared him, after weakening the monster enough, sustaining some damage. With no way to heal himself, he continued, slightly injured. If I die here, I won't be able to become a hero, I won't be able to prove them all wrong. Izuku dodged, rolled, and avoided the magic spears constantly emerging from the ground. Undyne, the head of the monster royal guard, was chasing him as he rushed through the obstacles. The longer the attack dragged on, the less time Izuku had between the small blue circle appearing, indicating where the attack would be, and the spear shooting up. Even attempting to attack Undyne wouldn't work as she was below him, and thus the boy had no time to aim attacks with the spears appearing at his feet. After many twists and turns, and coming across many dead ends, Izuku realized, if I follow the bridge below me, surely I'll find the right path? Eventually he was standing upon a huge plain, with only one path leading forward, so he followed it, yet to his horror it was a dead end. Fearing he wouldn't have enough time to escape, Izuku turned back, only to encounter Undyne herself. A spear crashed down onto the bridge, breaking off the part that Izuku was standing on, as the monster menacingly stood on the other side of the split. Why did she do that? As he fell, he heard a faint voice calling out to him. It sounds like it came from over here. Oh! You've fallen down, haven't you? Are you okay? Here, get up. Chara, huh? My name is... The gentle voice faded away. But my name isn't Chara. The voice almost reminded him of Toriel, but much younger. He awoke on another bed of golden flowers, and sat up, hearing the relaxing sound of a waterfall. Izuku followed the passageway, wading through the waist-deep. Noticed there was a lot of rubbish floating here and there, some with brands he recognized. Further along there was an even higher concentration of garbage, including some items such as a rusted bike, and a cooler with some freeze-dried space food bars. As the cooler showed no signs of wear, Izuku took 2 of the strange astronaut foods, eating one on the spot, as he needed to heal himself, and strangely food could heal him, possibly due to the magic underground. Continuing further, there was a training dummy. Izuku pulled back his fist, and let out a mighty punch. The dummy fell to the floor. Pleased with this hit, seeing he had become stronger, he picked the dummy back up, apologizing, and left. Or not. The dummy angrily emerged from the water in front of him. Fool! You think you can hurt me? I am a ghost that lives inside a dummy. My cousin used to live inside a dummy too until you came along. When you talked to them, they thought they were in for a nice chat. But the things you said? Horrible. Shocking. Unbelievable. It spooked them right out of their dummy. Human. I'll scare your soul out of your body. With a single strike, the dummy came falling apart. Foolish. 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 Even if you attack my vessel, you'll never hurt me. I'm still incorporeal, you dummy. Some smaller dummies appeared and sent some strange tumbleweeds at Izuku, and he dodged, but the mad dummy didn't. Oh www, you dummies. Watch where you're aiming your magic attacks. The dummy had slipped out some information. Hey! You! Forget I said anything about magic. Conjuring up some flames in his hand, Izuku created a wall of fire around the dummy, trapping him as it began to close in. Mad Dummy was looking nervous. Unable to dodge the attack, they took the full force of it. Back and forth, they took turns attack and evading, like in a game. The enraged dummy was losing, their attacks were easily avoidable, his emotions clouding his mind and tactics, and Izuku's technique with his fire magic was much better. By the sound of things, this dummy wants to become corporeal, as when he mentioned I spooked his cousin out of the dummy, although I didn't say anything bad, he suggested it would be better to have stayed inside the dummy. How could I help him become corporeal? Is all that it takes simply time? Muttering? Foolish. 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 Don't look down on me. Do you think you can defeat me whilst muttering? Curious, Izuku asked the dummy how one could become corporeal. So you want to know? It's a matter of time. And you reset that time for my cousin. I will avenge my cousin. Oh, and also through extreme emotion you can become corporeal. Extreme emotion, huh? All I need to do is really enrage him, which is quite easily attainable. Hey! You know your cousin must be pretty weak to be scared by simple things like me saying how are you. Izuku attempted to play with the dummy's feelings. What? Don't insult my cousin like that. I'll have you know what it felt like to be my cousin then. Fighting continued, becoming more intense, Izuku feeling more guilty. Hey guys! The dummy shouted, and caught all his minions' attention. Dummies! 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 Remember how I said not to shoot at me, and to aim for the human? Well, failures. You're fired. You're all being replaced. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Now you'll see my true power. Relying on people that aren't garbage. Mechanical whirs filled the room. You must be pretty weak to have to rely on others. Maybe it's the same for your cousin. Hey! Human! Didn't I tell you to not insult my cousin? You make me sick. Dummy bots, magic missile. Some robots, similar to dummies, appeared, sending some magic missiles after the boy, who continued to dodge. Look, I'm unscathed, whereas I've hit you many times. And you slipped up. You're useless. Your magic is rubbish. Like your cousin. Izuku used Kaken's insults, which he had used on him in the first place. He felt incredibly guilty, maddening the dummy like that, however he wanted to help. The angry dummy was hopping mad. You scum. You make me sick. Goo. My mannequin levels are going off the charts. Suddenly, the dummy changed color, from angry red to bright yellow. This feeling? Eureka. 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 Human. That moment of unbridled emotion. It allowed me to finally fuse with my body. I'm fully corporeal now. My lifelong dream, realized. In return I guess I want stomp you. How's that sound? Really? I'm so glad. It worked. Sorry for saying that about your cousin, I was just trying to enrage you enough for you to become corporeal. I guess? You did? So you didn't mean it? Oh good. Good human. You can pass now. I helped them. Like a hero would, although a hero would possibly do it in a better way. A smile spread across Izuku's cheeks. Emerging from the swamp there was a crossroad with numerous paths leading off. A sight read. North, Bluke Acres. East, Hotland. Temi Village. Bluke Acres lead to multiple houses, so Izuku took east for Hotland. He encountered new puzzles, progressing through the underworlds, as the rooms became more dimly lit, until eventually he was shrouded in darkness. All he could see was one of those strange echo flowers, whispering behind you. 7. The first word he heard from Undyne was a number, as she seemingly materialized behind him, light suddenly reappearing, blinding him. He was backed into a corner, his eyes frantically sought for escape, spotting a bush however it seemed pointless. 7 human souls. With the power of 7 human souls, our king, King Askari Dreamer, will become a god. With that power, Askari can finally shatter the barrier. He will finally take the surface back from humanity, and give them back the suffering and pain that we have endured. Understand, human? Take back? Give them back? This is your only chance at redemption. Give up your soul? Or I'll tear it from your body. Her armor clanked heavily against the ground, with a loud thud with every step she took forward, echoing through the tunnel. Her blue spear was glowing as bright and fiercely as her eyes. This is it. Undyne. I'll help you fight. An oblivious monster kid appeared between them, emerging from the bushes. Yo! You did it. Undyne is right in front of you. You've got front row seats to her fight. Completely clueless to the situation. Crap. What should I do? Am I going to die at her hands? No, I won't go down without a fight. Wait. Who's she fighting? She seized Monster Kid by the face, and proceeded to drag them away. I'm saved. Thanks goodness. But where now? East led to a dead end. He checked the bushes for a hidden path, however it didn't lead anywhere. They were hiding here the whole time? Sighing, he trudged back the way he came, when he spotted another way that led up. As previously he was blinded by darkness, the path wasn't visible. Following the path led to a bridge, and as he was crossing the precariously thin wood, he heard a familiar voice he was all too grateful for. Yo! Monster Kid tentatively stepped towards him. Yo, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but I want to ask you something. Man, I've never had to ask this before. Yo? You're human, right? Haha. Cautiously, the human nodded, certain such a creature couldn't hold grudges simply for his being human. Man. I knew it. They looked downcast. Well, Undyne told me, stay away from that human. They assumed Undyne's booming voice, being a strange contrast to their usual tone. So, like, I guess that makes us enemies or something. But I kinda stink at that, haha. Yo, say something mean so I can hate you? He had already insulted a monster, and although it was with good intentions, and good consequences, he still felt guilty of the action, and thus, he declined the request. Yo, what? So I have to do it? Here goes nothing. Yo, I hate your guts. They cringed. Man, I am such a turd. I'm gonna go home now. Monster Kid pitifully turned away, and tripped, however they held on with their mouth. Yo, wait. Help. I tripped. The words came out muffled, as it was difficult to keep hold of the wooden planks with teeth and speak at the same time. Without hesitating a second, he shot to the monster and pulled them up, disregarding Undyne who had just arrived. Now he had to deal with the conflict at hand, yet Monster Kid beat him to the punch. If why you wanna hurt my friend? You're gonna have to get through me first. Undyne stepped away. She's gone. Yo, you really saved my skin. Guess being enemies was just a nice thought, haha. We'll just have to be friends instead. Man, I should really go home. I bet my parents are worried sick about me. Later, dude. He wasn't listening. The words simply glossed over his head. He stood still, in place. Friend. The word bounced around his head. Friend. Someone, a monster in fact, called him their friend. They didn't even know his name. Aside from Kaken, he never had a friend, if you could call his bully that. None of the kids ever wanted to associate with him simply because he was quirkless. Friend. The single word left a huge impact on him, and before he knew it, he was running back after them, to learn their name, to learn if they had a phone. His first true friend. He didn't want to let this opportunity slip from his grasp. In search of his new possible friend, Izuku traversed back through the underground, asking for directions to Snowdin as he remembered seeing them there the first time. They sure were fast, as Izuku didn't catch a glimpse of them on his way back. Arriving at Snowdin, Izuku asked the skeleton brothers if he could stay the night, since the young monster would unlikely be outside, as his parents would be worried about him. In the morning, or well, the time most monsters had woken up, he surveyed the snowy area for a spot of yellow. Yo! You came back? Izuku was spotted first by the kid. Ah. Well, since we are friends, I thought that maybe. Well. What's your name? My name's Monster Kid. Haha, strange yeah. But my friends call me Moki. Izuku. Nice to meet you Moki. Yo, Izuku, are you gonna escape to the surface, since you're a human? Not so loud. Fortunately, no one heard. Well. Yeah. I don't know. Why? You could probably dodge the king's attacks and sneak past him. I saw you dodging Undyne's attacks, I just thought she was playing before. Man, I should have realized. Maybe Undyne isn't as cool as I thought. And no. She's cool. I mean, don't you need human souls to break that barrier? She just wants to set you all free. I want to set you all free too. Yo, is there any way we could contact each other you think? Since you should probably go back to the surface. Your parents must be worried sick. Ah, yeah. Don't worry about me. Yo, keep going and reach the surface, but make sure you come back and visit. How would I do that? Haha, I dunno dude, but, see you then Izuku. Can't you maybe, come with me? Come with you? Dude, that'd be so awesome. But, my parents would get really worried. It's fine. Thanks Moki. I'll see if I can find a way to visit you. Moki walked away, falling flat on their face, as per usual. Izuku had made a friend. However, keeping that friend would be difficult, due to the fact that, well, one loves underground and the other lives the surface. Even if he simply fell down again, he would need to walk through all of the underground. 7. Once he had finally arrived to Undyne, awaiting for his arrival, she repeated that number. 7 human souls, and King Askari will become a god. 5. 5? That's how many we have collected thus far. Understand? Your soul will bring us a 6th step closer to breaking the barrier. First, however, as is customary for those who make it this far, I shall tell you the tragic tale of our people. It all started, long ago. Humans and monsters were living peacefully up on the surface, until one day, war broke out. After a long battle, the humans emerged victorious and sealed the monsters underground. Many years later, they say a human child fell down. Askari told me his son found them, and took care of them as family. Until one day, that human died. His son absorbed the child's soul in order to take them up to the surface. You know what happened next? Those vicious, cruel, stupid humans assumed that his son had killed the human. They mercilessly murdered him in cold blood, leaving him to stumble back underground, half dead. It was your kind who did this. That night, the royal family had lost 2 children, from the actions of your kind. Although the human could have easily fled through the cave she was standing on as Undyne monologued, he stood stationary, absorbing every word she uttered. He was confused as to why he didn't take this golden opportunity to flee. Do you think you're any better? You're standing in the way of everybody's hopes and dreams. You're just a remorseless criminal. You wander through the caverns, attacking anyone in your path. That's wrong. Self-defense? Please. That's wrong. You didn't kill them because you had to. You killed them because it was easy for you. That's wrong. Because it was fun for you. Do you think it was fun when I found out? Do you think it's fun when people's family members never come home? No, I don't. Izuku suddenly realized he missed his mother. Is that fun? No. But your time's up, villain. Villain? The word resounded in his head. He hadn't realized tears had begun to form in his eyes. You won't hurt anyone else. It was an accident, I promise. A knight in shining armor has appeared. And all the pain you inflicted on the fallen. Every hope, every dream you've turned to dust. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. She's gonna send right back through her spear. Nga. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Izuku surprised himself and Undyne when he spoke his thoughts aloud. Human? Why are you crying? You think that'll work on me? Don't pretend to show guilt now. Nga. Prepare yourself. That one monster, that one frogget, that one life, had caused things to go awry. One mistake was all it took. It was an accident. I didn't want to kill them. Just hurt them enough to scare them so they wouldn't fight anymore. I haven't killed anyone else, I've learned from my mistakes. Yeah right. Come on human. Let's fight. Feel my wrath, my revenge for those poor monster souls you've hurt or killed. Undyne leapt down from her position, just as Izuku shot forward through the tunnel. He could only flee, hoping she would grow tired of chasing him. She wouldn't accept mercy, and he didn't want to fight. Anything would be better than fighting. Unfortunately Undyne was faster than Izuku. Don't run away. You won't get away from me this time. She threw him a spear which he had no choice but to catch, as she had rooted him to the spot with magic. As long as you're green you can't escape. Unless you learn to face danger head-on. You won't last a second against me. His attacks were easy enough to block with the spear she handed him. Why did she give me a spear? Doesn't she want to kill me? No human has ever made it past Askari. Killing you is an act of mercy. Suddenly she snatched the spear from his hands, he was blocking the spears too easily. However now he could flee. So the spear is to keep me in the same spot? He thought as he ran. If I drop the spear then I can escape, however I will probably be hit by a spear. Welcome to Hotland, a sign read. You've escaped from me for the last time. The battle had arrived at a stalemate. Izuku could block Undyne's attacks without breaking a sweat, and if he didn't keep the spear he could escape, yet it wasn't as simple as dropping the spear since once he did he would be vulnerable to attack, and it would be difficult to dodge inside the narrow cave. He had never really used his magic fire in battle much, he had no desire to injure any monster as they were fighting for a good cause, but now it was the only way. The green-haired boy dropped the spear and hastily produced flames with such immense force that the shock wave could prevent the spears from reaching him. The sudden light blinded the heroine. This is my chance. If I can't escape now, I'll have to fight her to survive. Immediately the boy darted forward towards Hotland. If I'm correct, the heat in Hotland should slow her down, which means I will be able to escape. She looks like a fish and lives in waterfall. In a hot area water is scarce. It's simple. If this doesn't work, I'll have to fight. He dashed forth, ignoring the sleeping sands he spotted at a stand. Undyne, however, didn't. Across the bridge to a water cooler, the human arrived. Armor, so hot. But I can't give up. The fish monster collapsed onto the floor helplessly in the heat. There was one thing clear to do. The boy dispensed some water and threw it onto the monster. Now I need to run. I can't give her the chance to capture me. I hope that's enough water for her to leave. He rushed forward and heard armor clanking in the distance, slowly fading away. Some monster in armor in one direction, a river with a hooded figure on a boat in another, and a lab in the final. When Izuku approached the monsters in armor, they revealed themselves to be royal guards, and blocked the path ahead, suggesting to go through the lab. The boy stepped into the lab hesitantly. He. What a creepy laugh. Why are they in the dark? Oh look, a human has arrived. Izuku's instinct screamed to run. The monster was unsettling, but there was one question eating at his mind. My name is W.D. Gaster, the royal scientist of the Dash. Is it possible to borrow souls? Izuku asserted himself, straight and upfront. Borrow souls? I dash. Do you think if Askari took the already captured 5 human souls, and borrowed mine, and another person's soul, it'd be possible to break the barrier? Perhaps, that could work. The human was sweating profusely in the face of the skeletal creature he faced. They were unlike any of the other monsters he had met. He didn't seem to be bent on capturing humans, as Undyne and Papyrus were. He didn't have a laid-back aura like Sans, or a friendly aura like Moki or Toriel. They created an eerie atmosphere, just being there. We need 2 more souls though. If it were possible to borrow souls, who would be the candidates for borrowing the souls? The monster questioned, with an underlying tone of a mix of disbelief and intrigue. Well, I only really have one option, my mum. Someone I know. They live on the surface, am I correct? Yes. And how do you plan of convincing them to come with you, let alone have their soul borrowed? Not to mention how would you get out in the first place? I know I can convince them, and wouldn't it be easy to simply tell Askari of this plan, and he lets me past? You're forgetting 3 things: you need a monster soul and a human soul to pass the barrier, the plan may not even work, and you may not keep your word and simply escape. I need a monster soul and a human soul? I promise I won't just leave. You can trust me. The last one isn't a problem, but the first 2. Don't worry, I have an idea, let's go tell Askari of our plan. After reaching Askari's castle, and telling him the plan, Askari agreed. But with one objection. How can we get Izuku through the barrier? We need a monster soul too. I can just borrow a monster soul. Right? Izuku hopefully answered back. I was thinking. Would it even be possible to borrow a monster soul? The reason the humans banished us underground was from the fear that if a monster obtained a human soul, as the human soul can live on outside a vessel, the monsters can absorb it, however only very few monster souls can continue, and even then it's for a few seconds. Let's say the souls are people, and the vessels are houses. To borrow a human soul, as the soul can reside without a vessel, using this analogy, it'd be like the original soul lived there, the borrowed souls as visitors. However, with a monster soul, they would have to merge with the owner, as they can only reside within their own house. What are you trying to get at? Askari interrupted. That it may not be possible to borrow monster souls, even if it is possible to borrow souls. They all paused. How can they trust me so easily? This plan entirely relies on my loyalty and selflessness. It's better this way, however. Besides that, how am I going to convince my mother to come down here and give her soul? And more importantly, if the plan fails, 2 monsters would have to die for both me and my mum to escape, and even if monsters are freed, one must act as a sacrifice so I can talk to my mum. If the plan fails it would be terrible, at least 1 death, monsters trapped underground, and only one of us, me and my mum, can escape. If the plan succeeds, there will still be 1 death. Is it not possible at all to prevent that? After a few minutes, Gaster interjected, I have a solution. It is okay. And what is that? The human child asked tentatively. If it is not possible to borrow monster souls, then of course someone will have to sacrifice them elves for their soul. However, this doesn't mean it is impossible to split the souls after they have merged. That sounds more far-fetched than borrowing souls, even monster souls. Who would even volunteer for such a dangerous experiment? Askari questioned, dismissing the idea. Why me, of course. After Gaster made his bold statement, he returned to his lab. Why would he say such a thing? I really hope it is possible to borrow souls, both humans and monsters. That's the only way really. As of right now, I would estimate to have roughly 7 months left, perhaps even less. Depending on how long it takes to build this soul splitter Gaster speaks of as a backup, I can hopefully make it back before the exam. Izuku followed Gaster back to the lab. And waited. A day passed. A week passed. A month passed. I have finished. Human, we can proceed with the plan now. Follow me. Without even giving the boy a chance to speak, the scientist left the lab and continued through Hotland, halting at the entrance to the core. I'm going to jump down, and send my soul up. You must be prepared to catch it. Hesitate for even a second and you'll lose this chance. What? Why? We still haven't tried borrowing your soul yet. You know what they say, a scientist will give anything for his experiments, even his life. But they don't say that. Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Gaster jumped. He fell. Izuku screamed. Gaster was still smiling eerily. The human had no choice but to quickly catch the runaway soul of W.D. Gaster, watching his body shatter across his own invention. Why? We hadn't tried borrowing yet. What am I going to say to Askari? You idiot. What will we use as a vessel once we split the souls? Izuku slumped onto the ground, tears streaming from his eyes. Guilt consumed him. The frogget. Now 2 monsters had died at his hands. His hands were stained with dust. Well, looky what we have here. A familiar voice startled the boy. First the frogget, and now the royal scientist? You really are just a selfish brat. He even helped you, yet dash. He jumped in himself. Izuku interpolated, unconvinced, yet surprising the flower then was in front of him. And what was the reason of that? So you could absorb his soul so you can escape from the underground. How manipulative of you. That's wrong. Izuku didn't want to give the flower a chance to retort, so he ran. With the newly acquired soul, he felt a new power. He rushed to Ascari, to proceed with the plan, although things had gone slightly awry. It was now time to cross the barrier. "We believe in you, human," Ascari encouraged. "I don't know where I'll emerge from, but hopefully close enough. I need to succeed. I can't let Gaster's sacrifice go to waste. Although there is a possibility he will survive, it doesn't seem, it's not very reliable. At this point the entire monster kind are relying on me. I can't fail. Moki and Toriel and Ascari are waiting." The human emerged from the mountain. Izuku was now on th surface. The sun shone brightly. After, not a long walk, he arrived home, wondering what to say. Izuku knocked on his door. "Who is it?" "Mother." "Izuku. My baby. Is it really you?" I missed you so much, dear. Where have you been? Your clothes are dirty. I'm so sorry. I don't understand why you left such a note, but..." She trailed off, distracted by the impatient look on her son's face. She pulled him into a tight embrace, tears leaking from her eyes like water from a running tap. Obviously she would have lots of questions. "Mother. I'm sorry, I'm truly really sorry, but, can I ask you a favor?" "What is it, Izuku?" Izuku continued to explain to her everything that had happened in the past 6 or so months, excluding the reason he had winded up there. "The only way for these monsters to break the barrier is by obtaining 7 human souls. With the power of 7 human souls they can escape the underground. I suggested that they could borrow the human souls. They only need 2 more souls. Me and you. Please, will you come down with me and give our souls so can break the barrier?" What? Izuku, are you okay? I don't want to let you go." After a long time of reasoning back and forth, Izuku finally convinced her to come. The journey back through the underground was easy. None of the monsters attacked them, as Ascari had told them of the plan. Not too long passed before they reached new home. "Nice to meet you, miss, I'm Ascari. This must all be very confusing to you, but please don't be afraid." All of Izuku's worries on how his mother would see the monsters melted away. Ascari's friendly calm demeanor was genuine. "Nice to meet you too." She smiled. "I'm Inko, his mother. So, how does this borrowing souls thing work?" "It will be nothing to worry about. You will emerge unscathed whether it works or not." Ascari had already absorbed the 5 human souls, Izuku could tell as he looked more powerful and threatening, yet still just as gentle. Everything then went blindingly bright. Ascari had successfully borrowed both human souls. All was left to break the barrier. Both humans then woke up lying on the ground. The barrier had been shattered. Monsters were freed. It felt surreal to both the monsters and Izuku. Inko didn't really fully understand. "Thank you, human." Ascari smiled at Izuku. "Yo. Izuku. I can't believe the barrier's broken." "Thanks, dude." Moki exclaimed cheerfully. "You have grown, Izuku. I am proud of you." Toriel said fondly. "Nice work, kid." "Sommiteud." "Well done, human. You did well. Of course it wouldn't be possible without my help." "Naihihi." Papyrus announced proudly. "Nga. I guess this human isn't so bad." Undyne declared. "You've made so many friends, Izuku dear. I'm so happy for you." Inko hugged her son. The monsters all made their exit rapidly, ecstatic to be free of the place. However, Izuku and Inko stayed behind. "Mother, you can go home now. I promise I will come back soon, but I have one more thing to do." "Noifuku. I'm not leaving, I will come with you." "Where are we going? What is this thing you have to do? Do you remember Gaster?" "Yes, the one who you said gave his soul?" "Yes. He built a machine which could split mine and his soul, and I'm going back to it. It's not too far." "Has this machine been tested? Is it safe?" Izuku hesitated to tell the truth. "And no. Then I cannot allow you to try. What if you get hurt? You could both end up losing your life. I'm sure Gaster would understand." "I still have to try." Izuku was determined. They entered the lab and arrived at the soul splitter. "Izuku. I'm not sure about this, it doesn't look very safe." "It'll be okay, I promise, Mum." The soul splitter was a very strange machine indeed. Inko's uncertainties were understandable. It had the shape of the skull of a dead animal and had many pipes leading out of it. Gaster had explained before that Izuku had to enter through what looked like the nose of the skull and lay there, and press a button. If successful, the soul of Gaster would emerge from one of the pipes, and enter the nearest vessel. A white flower had already been placed there to act as the vessel. Izuku pressed the button, ignoring his mother's objections. The machine let out loud whirring sounds and noises, almost sounding as if it were malfunctioning. Izuku. I don't think it's gonna work, please, get out of there, she mumbled, worried. It's okay, I believe in Gaster. It was a disaster. Well, maybe not a complete disaster. Little white shards of what seemed to be Gaster's soul emerged, a few at a time, floating in the room for a few seconds, then dissipating. Gaster's soul had been extracted, however not whole. It had shattered his soul across time and space. The soul splitter shook violently, then powered off. Izuku, get out of there! His mother shrieked, distressed. Nothing happened. The machine wasn't working anymore. Izuku had emerged unscathed, and felt a bit lighter, however. Gaster was now long gone. It didn't work. The feeling of lightness didn't last long as now he felt heavy, with guilt. Let's go home. Izuku, are you okay? I'm fine, let's go home now. They trudged back through to the exit in silence. Izuku was downcast, Inko was anxious. Once through the barrier, Askari, Toriel and Moki greeted them. Did it? Did it not work? Askari sighed, afraid to ask. Izuku simply returned a solemn shake of the head. I see. There was nothing more to say, they were left on an awkward silence. Well, this may be bad timing, however, thinking about the future, Izuku, will you act as our ambassador to the humans? Askari attempted to cease the silence. This could be a big step towards becoming a hero. The obvious answer is yes, but, do I really deserve to after what happened with Gaster? I don't know. If you're worried about what happened to Gaster, rest assured, it was not your fault, we do not blame you. Don't blame yourself. If you don't want to be ambassador, then that's fine. No. I'll be ambassador. Thank you, Izuku. I'm sorry, Gaster. I don't want to waste this step, but... Izuku remembered Flowey's words, first the frogget, and now the royal scientist? You really are just a selfish brat. Flowey was right. I really am just a selfish brat. Well, now that that's out of the way, nice to meet you. Are you Toriel and Moki? Izuku has told me all about you too. My name is Inko, Izuku's mother. Izuku's mother jovially chimed in, breaking the silence that had ensued. Yes, I am Toriel. It's nice to meet you too. Yeah, dude. Nice to meet you. Thinking about the future? It shouldn't be too difficult for monsters to fit in this society of quirks. It's not very strange to see people looking not human at all walking around. Monsters will hopefully be fit to be just like any normal member of society. Thank you all for taking care of Izuku. We'll be going home now. Thank you again. Inko held Izuku's hand and pulled her son along, who was still staring at the ground in grief. It would be very awkward meeting Bakugo. And going back to school, as a matter of fact. The last time they had spoke to each other was not the best parting. Maybe if you jump off the roof, you'll get a quirk in your next life. A lot had happened in the 4 months that had passed, and Izuku wasn't ready to deal with school again, or his childhood friend. Have a good day at school. I hope they don't question you too much. Thanks, Mum. This isn't going to go well. Even wandering in the streets, he was the target of many stares. Not only had he been missing for 4 months, but had also become the ambassador to the newly appeared monsters. Word had spread. It'd be worse in the school. Izuku entered his classroom, to have every pair of eyes immediately flit to him and every mouth accompanying gaped, speechless, wide open. The green-haired boy simply looked down and quickly made his way to his seat. Quickly after being greeted by an explosion in his face. What is this about? You disappear for 4 months without a trace and reappear, as the fucking ambassador of some weird-ass monsters or whatever, without saying anything? Speak up, nerd. The fuck happened? No. This is exactly what I was dreading. Why did he have to in front of the whole class? I should have asked my mum to just stay at home. To his luck, the teacher walked in. Settle down. I know it's weird having your classmate back after 4 months, but, leave it out of the classroom please? Wow. Thanks. As usual, doesn't even care about what's happening right in front of him. Once school had ended, Bakugo of course continued probing Izuku, out of the classroom. Oi Deku. What the hell happened? Silence. Answer, you nerd. Still silence. What, did something happen to your mouth? Spit it out or I'll force it out of you. Kakin. Stop. I don't want to explain anything to you. All you need to know can be found in the news. Leave me alone. The experience underground had certainly changed Izuku for the better. He had gained a bit more confidence, enough to surprise the fiery blonde, and use the opportunity to escape. Bakugo simply stared at him as he ran, shocked at his sudden outburst. A few months had passed. Monsters had fit into society incredibly easily, just as Izuku had suspected. The initial shock of the monster's sudden appearance had disappeared, and had integrated seamlessly. No one batted an eye when seeing a monster walk past, especially as it was not so strange with quirks. School were even accepting monsters, perhaps some of them aspiring to become heroes, after hearing about the hero system. A new era of peace between the monsters and humans had begun. Toriel and Moki had moved into a house near the Midoriyas, and Izuku and Moki frequently talked to each other, sometimes training together, perhaps Toriel helping. There was only 1 month until the UA entrance exam. Just like the previous 5 months, it came and passed quickly, and wait for the entrance exam came to close. Good luck, Izuku dear. Dude. You got this. You can do it, Izuku. Izuku's mother, Moki, and Toriel all cheered him on. Thank you all. I'll do my best. I won't let Toriel's teachings, and all the training go to waste. I won't let you down. It was time. The boy's dream of becoming a hero shone brighter than ever, a contrast to a mere 10 months before. The boy had arrived at the practical exam briefing. Don't stand in my way or I'll kill you. Izuku was not surprised to hear Bakugo's voice, however he was surprised when he simply walked past without another word. He could hear a few murmurs mixed in with the ones about UA. Isn't that the guy who's the ambassador to the monsters? It's him. The boy who went missing for 4 months and then reappeared as the ambassador to the monsters. Although they didn't bother him much, he was incredibly nervous, thus causing him to fall. The floor was rushing up to his face, until it stopped. Are you okay? It's my quirk. Sorry for using it without asking. But it'd be bad luck to fall before the exam, right? Not even the past 10 months could make Izuku prepared for talking to girls. Let's do our best. See ya. I talked to a girl. Once the briefing was over, it was time for the exam to start. Okay, start. What's wrong? There are no countdowns in a real fight. The voice of the yellow DJ rang over the murmurs. Izuku was ready. The group all rushed in to begin their 10-minute mock battles, Izuku not left behind. A 1-pointer. It's small enough to take out easily, if I just aim. A charred mess of metal lay on the floor. My first point. Izuku continued in this manner, directing fire from his hands at the robots, destroying them with relative ease. 5 points, 8, 9, 11, 14. He kept counting up his scores, destroying all robots on sight. Broken hunks of metal lay scattered all over the ground. He had reached 30 before being unable to find any more. All of a sudden, a large shadow overlooked the road, the 0-pointer. Everyone began to panic and sprint to safety. Izuku had joined them until less than 2 minutes left. The sounds of the sound hero rung over the battle center. It'd be bad luck if you fell, right? The nice girl who had stopped Izuku from falling was trapped under the rubble, yet the robot showed no signs of stopping its rampage. He sprinted towards the giant 0-pointer. With my fire, I would never have enough power to destroy this robot. The best I can hope for is halting it, to give enough time for her to escape. Her quirk was to lift things from the ground. She must be able to get out. Toriel had taught him different moves, for different circumstances, weak attacks over large areas, stronger attacks over smaller areas, etc. Toriel showed me different moves. At this point I need to use a strong attack. He directed his fire into a single spot on his palm, and shot it towards the 0-pointer, blackening and denting the metal targeted. You can move the rubble by yourself, right? I can buy you enough time for you to recover and to escape, but you need to escape yourself. It burns, the fire burns me the more intense it is. My hands were already slightly flamed before, but now they're charred. Please, escape. Let's go. The nice girl shouted over all of the commotion, and seized hold of Izuku's arm. She had a nauseous look on her face. They had escaped, as everyone fled. Time's up. Once again, the voice of Present Might could be heard yelling over the ruckus. I hope 30 points is enough, but I heard others talking about how many points they had and, compared to 28, 45, 32. It's below average. What was that guy? He just jumped out against that obstacle? Ambassador of the monsters, and he trips on the way here, and then shows that performance? They're missing the point. He jumped out to save that girl. He knew it was dangerous, and he needed points to pass, yet he didn't hesitate at all. A certain blue-haired teen was surprised, after watching him act so jumpy at the beginning. Although I didn't fail too badly. 30 points won't be enough to cut it. Even if I had the luck to one of the better ones, there must be a cutoff somewhere, and it must be above 30 points. I failed. I failed my mom, Moki, toriel. I failed. Gaster. Don't be so worried. It's amazing that you even applied to UA and got 30 points, the three of them said, attempting to lift Izuku's spirits up. Izuku. It came. It's here. Izuku took the envelope and trudged up to his room. Hello. It is I, Present Mike. Here to announce your results. You passed the written exam, and with 70 points, passed the practical exam. Huh? 70? That's right. The entrance exam was not only graded on villain points, how can a hero course reject those who save others? The 40 points were rescue points. You rescue stunned the judges, landing you third place overall in the exam. First place Bakugo Katsuki with 77 villain points and 0 rescue, second place Kirishima Ijiru with 39 villain points and 35 resus points, and third place, me, Kaken, with 77 villain points? What power. But I got in. Mother. I got in. I got in. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe and support the original writer. See you next time.